What's up, everybody? Welcome into Shout at Buffalo Football Podcast. It is Wednesday, December 17th, 8:30 p.m. We're changing the times all over the place on you. Ryan was at a school concert tonight, and listen, my son just got to the middle school. It is a roll of the dice, Ryan Talbot, with how long those things are going to run you, my friend. And tonight, yeah, you were going through it a little bit.
Yeah, I might have to do a double dose of my blood pressure meds tomorrow morning because I was at my wit's end. They have you drop your kid off an hour before the concert begins, which who knows why that is. It starts at 6:30. It's closing in on 2 hours, and you're sitting there like, how is this still going on? You don't need to have band, orchestra, and 3 to 4 different courses all on the same night. That's my rant, Bills Mafia, as we're previewing or getting into a little bit of Bills talk here on a Wednesday night.
Indeed. We're going to get into a couple of different things on this episode. A couple of veteran defensive linemen have, they're not really hitting the market, but they've been released and hitting the waiver wire. And so we'll see if either of them makes sense for the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk about those two guys. We'll talk about the injury situation around a couple players. And then if we have time, I want to get into Sean McDermott a little bit. More to come on that as we look towards the final stretch here. So, you think about a week and a half ago, before Joey Bosa was able to make it back, and he played last week, and he was impactful. And I talked to him after the game, and he said that the rest really did him a lot of good. And I think that you're excited about that if you're a Bills fan. But the thing is, when he went out, it was kind of like, who is going to play edge rusher for the Buffalo Bills beyond Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa? And if you think about it, TJ Sanders has played a ton on the edge, which is just not what he's designed to do. There's a clip going around on social media right now where I think, TJ got given a hard time a little bit for maybe not pursuing. I think it was on the end around or the double reverse or whatever that play was the Patriots ran. He's playing out of position, and they're asking a young player that was brought in here primarily to be a pass rusher on obvious pass downs from the interior behind Ed Oliver to play a completely different position. So I think maybe finding another veteran player to add in the mix, specifically at edge, is something we could talk about. Enter veteran pass rusher Matthe Judon, who the Miami Dolphins released today. He has not had a good season. Some of the advanced numbers are pretty putrid. I mean, the pressure's not great. I don't think he has a sack this season, or if he does, it might be only one. He's played against the Bills a couple of times in Miami. What are your thoughts? Where do you land on Matthe Judon?
My thoughts on Matthe Judon, despite having bad numbers, Matt, he's a defensive end. He can't be any worse than a defensive tackle playing out of position, where you're essentially, I feel like they're wasting his season playing him out of position. So you bring in Matthe Judon, let him play at defensive end, let him be your DN number 4. You have Bosa, you have Rousseau, Epinesa, Judon as your number 4. You can do a lot worse than that, even if he is in the decline. That allows TJ Sanders to kick back inside and try to, spare the rest of his rookie season playing the position he should be playing. You look at it right now. Javon Solomon is someone that they like on special teams. They're not throwing him out there on defense. They brought up Andre Jones Jr. last week. He didn't really play on defense either. They're very limited there. So when a veteran hits the market like this, you should at least be trying to throw your hat in the ring in terms of putting in a waiver claim. Now, will he get to Buffalo? I don't know. There's going to be a few teams where I could see them being interested in his services ahead of Buffalo. And but if I'm also the Bills, I might be putting in a claim to keep him away from New England or another team that might be trying to get him after them. So even for that reason, it makes sense to me. But yeah, I'm all in on Matthe Judon at this point because it's better to have an actual defensive end as your DN number 4.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a move that you definitely consider, and I think a waiver claim is one. There's a couple of names on the roster right now. I mean, you start with maybe a Fedarian Mathis who you might be able to release and then bring him back on the practice squad, somebody that can kind of be in the mix for you. I know that you can't elevate him any more times this season, but I think the Bills have 4 defensive tackles that they can rely upon. If you go out and get Judon, you can get him in at edge, and now you can play TJ Sanders back where you need him to play anyway. I was talking to Daquan Jones today, and I don't have the clip loaded on here. Otherwise, I would play it. I'll share it on social media. But he said something really interesting, because I thought in that second half, one of my takeaways from that game, and I want to get your thoughts on this too, was it was the best I've seen Larry Ogunjobi look in a Bills uniform. And I think part of what has gone into that is just time on task with Daquan Jones. When Ogunjobi first got back, Jones was still working his way back from that calf injury. So they're just getting a chance over the last 3 to 4 games to really get out there and rush together and defend against the run together. And I asked him about, like, is that something where the more reps you kind of build it up? He's like, it's like that for every position. He even went back and talked about some of the teammates he had in Tennessee and how at some point 4 or 5 or 6 years in, it's almost like you don't have to talk to each other anymore. You just start to really be able to vibe with somebody out on the field because you know what they're going to do before they even do that. Now, I don't think that they're ever going to get to that level this year, Larry O and Daquan Jones, but the more snaps you get with those two guys together, the more you're going to be able, I think, to rely upon them. And I'd like to see TJ Sanders slotted back into that DT3 role, which I think bringing on Judon as DE4 allows you to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ogunjobi, it's fair game for the Bills fans. In their mind, the play that might stick in their minds from this game was him whiffing on the sack.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad, but his overall play in the game was very good. And I know you said it's, in your opinion, his best game since coming back or joining the Bills post-suspension. The bar hasn't been very high. I mean,
best
he hasn't
half.
had
Best half. The
best
first half was still a struggle.
Fair. The bar has been low. It hasn't been a great signing, but you're right. The half that he put together was promising. You hope he can build off of that. You hope that eventually his role gets sized down a little bit and you can, mix and match your players. You hope that Oliver comes back for a playoff push. And then, obviously there's some that are 3 techs, some that are 1 techs on this team, but the more capable bodies that you have at that position, the less wear and tear on the bodies. I'm going to use Deion Walker as an example. I don't feel like he's popped as much on tape, and I'm starting to wonder if it's because he's had to take on a bigger role. And Ogunjobi, he's had his struggles. Jones hasn't been maybe as dominant as I saw him a few weeks ago. So you throw all those guys in, you throw TJ Sanders playing out of place. If they could all play at defensive tackle and split reps, I think that could benefit all of them going forward.
He was playing 41% of the snaps Judon was in Miami this year. And I don't even think you need him to play that much. I think where he really potentially slots in is somewhere around 30 to 35% of the snaps. You keep him fresh. He's obviously an older player at 33 years old, and you just don't ask him to do too much and put him in spots where he can help you, whether that be moving him around on the line a little bit, getting creative from that perspective, or just letting him truly try to rush off the edge and seeing where he's at. Correct me if I'm wrong. He had a pretty significant injury a couple of years ago, right? Am I wrong on that?
No, I think
2023, he only played in 9 games with New England.
Right. I'm just trying to remember what it was, though, because I don't want to misspeak. But
I'm going to look it up right now.
I'm
look it up right now because I want to just see what it was. While I'm looking that up, we'll get back to
injury, torn bicep.
Torn bicep. So it was nothing lower body.
Nope.
So, you hope that at 33 years old, he has a playoff run in him. And I think he might be pretty juiced up. He looked pretty juiced up playing against the Bills in Miami a couple weeks ago. Just think about what it would do for an older player to join a team that's, loading up for a run at a Super Bowl. I think that can probably put Judon in the spot to get the most out of him. So I like the idea.
Yeah, I love the idea. And, he's obviously had some success against Allen and the Bills in his career. And now at this point, potentially getting to join the team if the Bills put in a waiver claim and no one else before them does, that would probably get him very amped up for a potential playoff run and trying to win a Super Bowl title.
Thank you so much for watching right here on a Wednesday night, December 17th. The Bills play at the Cleveland Browns. Ryan, we got some big news here. We've already dropped it, but we're gonna take a few minutes here to talk about it. Tomorrow night If you have nothing to do and you are within driving distance, or you just want to make a night of it, and come on in, you could jump on an Amtrak last minute train, whatever you need to do. Get to Turning Stone Resort Casino inside there. You can head over to the New York Rec and Social Club, where Shout Live comes back to Turning Stone. We cannot wait to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, they always have us set up extremely well. Great spot. We're over the sound system. It's always a lot of fun. Thursday night football will be on the big screens. There's tons of games, there's billiards, there's arcade games, but then there's obviously some gambling as well that you can take part in. Join us there, New York Rec and Social Club, tomorrow night, Verona, New York. You won't regret it.
And it's also going to serve as our preview podcast. So you will
Yes.
get our, if you can't make it out, make sure you're tuned in, watching live as Ryan and I break down this matchup against the Browns. We'll give our predictions as well. All right. The other defensive lineman that's been released this week that I think caught some Bills fans' attention. He was, I believe there was some interest during the free agent process back in the offseason. And that is former Raiders defensive tackle, Leki Fotu. 27 years old. This was his third team in 5 seasons, I believe. Had a year with the Jets, was drafted in the 4th round by the Arizona Cardinals. This is a guy that serves more as a nose tackle. So to me, think, Zion Lowe, think Eli Anku, kind of maybe a little bit better version of those players. I don't know if currently as constructed, if a claim would be put in. I think it would have to be something that you more consider this as a practice squad addition if you want to make an adjustment there. I know Zion Lowe can't be elevated anymore, so maybe you choose to move on from him, or maybe you're holding on to Lowe because you like where he's at in your own system, and there's limitless elevations once you get to the playoffs. As somebody you can kind of have in your back pocket. But I thought that at the very least, a guy that the Bills have done some work on, Fotu, he is going to be available here. We'll see.
Yeah, Fotu came in March on a free agent visit, signed with the Raiders shortly thereafter. The Raiders decided to go with some youth in a lost season, and which makes perfect sense. His numbers were okay by PFF metrics, at least compared to his teammates, but they may not be saying much because the Raiders have been a pretty big mess this year. But we've talked about the defensive line, the injuries, the lack of depth. It wouldn't hurt to bring him in, as you mentioned, ideally on the practice squad, have him as a candidate to elevate here late in the season. And then, as you mentioned, as many elevations as you want come playoff time. I don't know unless you think he's significantly better than a Mathis or something like that. And they brought him in on a visit, so they must have been high on him or somewhat high on him being a fit in this scheme. I think ideally, though, if you were to get him, it would be after clearing waivers and trying to sign him to your practice squad.
MJ Devonshire, we hardly knew you here in Buffalo. The Bills moved on from the practice squad cornerback that they signed last week. That's because Matt Prater sustained a quad injury over the weekend in the game against the Patriots. He is going to be out at least this week. So the Bills go out and they sign Michael Badgley, who, I don't know, Ryan, this is not a very inspiring addition. It's a 1 week, I think, break glass of in case of emergency. There's not a lot of other options available. They brought in a couple of kickers, including Matthew Wright was the other one. Bagley ends up being the one that the Bills bagged to bring in here and kick for 1 week. He was released by the Indianapolis Colts earlier this month because he missed a very critical extra point, which is something that Matthew Prater has struggled with at times this year, but he's been really reliable, especially in that 30 to 45-yard range. So at the very least, Bagley's going to get a 1 week tryout here with the Bills. And the good news is, if it doesn't go well, as long as it doesn't come down to a kick, and you would hope that it doesn't, as a 10.5 point favorite on the road against the Browns, if they don't like what they see, they can kind of, go through the same process next week if they have to, because I do think they're going to have to land on a kicker on their practice squad no matter what moving forward, because I just think Matt Prater at 41, he's been dinged up a couple of times already this year. He's an older kicker. That's something that you're just going to have a little insurance for.
Yeah, and you said it. Badgley's been a very solid kicker in his career. It's just the extra points. This year he's 18 of 21, so He's missed a few there this season, including that critical one against the Texans. But he's been solid as a field goal kicker. You're hoping this is a very short-term deal. But based on what's out there on the market right now, you're not going to get a ton of great options for a practice squad potential option that you could keep here for the rest of the year. He's not a bad player to have. There's obviously more workouts that can be done if there's any hiccups this weekend. And I guess that's the one good thing, Matt, is you would think on paper, this game should not come down to a critical kick against the Browns. As good as their defense is, the offense is a bit of a mess. The Bills should be able to win this one, even if the kicking situation is not ideal.
What was I just gonna say? I was just reading something, so I lost my train of thought. No, I think that's fair, and you're not going to lean into this. You're going to hope that Matt Prater gets back, and it almost felt like Sean McDermott talking about this injury is something that they are hopeful that they can kind of get him back in the mix and hope for the best. We'll see. The injury report, Ryan, is looking better by the day here. I mean, Joey Bosa completely off the injury altogether. Deion Dawkins missed with an illness today. Obviously, that's a big name on the injury report, but I don't want to overreact to that until tomorrow. The big change, though, today, Sean McDermott came out and he announced all the players that weren't going to participate today. He didn't mention Dalton Kincaid, who shows up on the injury report once again with the knee injury. Now, he never left the injury report. So he was on it last week. I went back and looked Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He was on the injury report with the knee designation. He was practicing in full, but it was still something that they were monitoring. And it's still something that he's playing through. 25% of the snaps 36% of the snaps last week. He's not playing nearly as much as he was pre-injury. So that's something now, another day season where you're dealing with Dalton Kincaid and an ongoing injury situation. I'm holding them out this week. Like if there's any question and he can't go be limited in a walkthrough on a Wednesday, I'm not going on the road against this Cleveland Browns defense and putting him in any kind of harm's way, especially considering Dawson Knox is having a 2-week renaissance. I'm probably going to write about him either this week or next week. Do you know the 2 touchdowns that he scored on Sunday equaled the total touchdown count from his previous 33 games combined, counting playoffs? Crazy.
No, that's insane. And with Kincaid, I'm right there with you. There's no reason to throw him out there on the field this week. Clearly he's hampered based on the amount of snaps that he played last week, being on the injury report all week. Still came up with a few, a good catch in that game, but Knox is playing great ball. This looks like a Hawes specialty game where you want that blocking with a very good Browns defense, having him in there for a good amount of snaps. He's shown that he's a very capable pass catcher as well. I think the Bills can certainly get by with those two as the 2 main tight ends. You obviously have Reggie Gilliam as in a pinch to be your tight end 3 in that scenario as well. So yeah, Kincaid is too important to this passing offense to throw him out there against a Browns team. And you can't call it a meaningless game. The Bills can clinch a playoff berth this weekend, but it's a lot more important to have him closer to 100% come playoff time than it is in this game. And if you can get him the week off and have him ready to go for Philadelphia, that I think would be an ideal situation. Who knows if you would want to roll him out against the Jets in that final week of the year. But you want him as close to 100% for the playoffs. So whatever you have to do to make that work, once you clinch a playoff berth, especially, which I'm anticipating could happen as early as this weekend, you play it safe with him.
You do play it safe. And if you want to play it safe this holiday season, you want to get to Topps Friendly Markets and let them get you hooked up with ready-to-serve fan favorites all holiday season long. This season, let Topps do the cooking, and you will be the real MVP. Visit takeoutmeals.topsmarkets.com and elevate your food game with the great selection of custom cakes, desserts, pizzas, sandwiches, fresh fruit, cheese trays, fried chicken, and so much more. Save time and easily shop with the convenience of no-fee pickup on all your game day deals. There's no service fees, no tips, just the best deals in town. Score great deals in time for kickoff or any occasion at takeoutmeals.topsmarkets.com. All right, Ryan. Good news. More good news on the injury front. Christian Benford back at practice today. I know it was a walkthrough, so tomorrow, Thursday, will be the true test. But it seems like, he was trying to work that toe out last week. It just was hurting a little bit too much. Decided to pull back, not play. I think you're also in a similar situation this week as you were last week, and similar to Dalton Kincaid. I'm not rushing Christian Benford back this week and taking any chances that he tweaks that thing. I want him feeling fully 100% healthy on that toe before you bring him back. Because like you mentioned, like there's a really good chance no matter what the Bills do over the next 3 weeks, they're going to clinch a playoff spot. So I'm not risking somebody as important to a postseason run as Christian Benford for a game against the Cleveland Browns.
And here's the one thing I'll say. We don't know the severity of the toe injury. It happened late in the week. It just might have been nagging him enough where they just didn't feel good enough for him to play last weekend against the Patriots. Maybe it was just something where this week it's fine now. It's not an issue. And if that's the case, great. Play him on Sunday. But you're right. It goes right back to the Kincaid talk. Do you need a Christian Benford to defeat a Cleveland Browns team with Shedeur Sanders, Jerry Jeudy as a pass catcher, and not a good offense overall? Not necessarily. If he's going to be active, limit his reps then too. Trey White's been playing good ball the last few weeks. If I'm the Bills, I want to get Max Hairston as many reps as possible too, because you don't want to have the rookie here maybe have to get thrown in the fire come playoff time. We've seen Christian Benford exit in the playoffs. And what that meant last year with Kaiir Elam. Obviously, Hairston has flashed and had some really good moments in his rookie season, but the more reps you can get him late in the stretch here, the more comfortable he's going to be come playoff time. So it wouldn't be a terrible situation that even if Benford is active on Sunday, if he's kind of playing more of a break glass in case of emergency type of role where don't roll him out there unless you truly need him.
This holiday season, Ryan, Amtrak has everybody hooked up. Have you ever been in New York City at the holidays? New York City during the holidays is magical, and taking the train is part of the experience. What if you need to get to the game? Maybe you live outside of Western New York and you want to get in for one of the final 2 home games at Highmark Stadium. Amtrak gets you right into downtown Buffalo, just a short ride share to the stadium. No middle seats, a generous luggage policy, and kids ride 50% off all the time. Head over to Amtrak.com for more details. All right, before we get out of here, last thing. I put out a tweet on Monday morning because, listen, I think everybody's reaction in the first half of that game was fair for the most part, right? Like if you felt like the sky was falling, if you felt like this was unacceptable for the way that the Bills came out in that game, like I think all of that was in bounds with the gravity of this game, this moment in their season, to come out as flat as the Bills did. I think a lot of the criticism of Sean McDermott, Bobby Babbitt, Joe Brady, Josh Allen, whoever you were slinging it at, it was deserved. But I did think that, like, the one thing I did want to spend a minute to talk about and get your thoughts on, like, where are you at with the, like, fire McDermott brigade? Because it is a very, very loud minority in Bills Mafia. Like, there is a section of fans that come hell or high water, like they just want something different in the head coaching chair here. And you look at some of the national conversations, and some of the big time talking heads are slow to it. But for all of the complaints I have about Colin Cowherd, I do think at times he's pretty solid from a national perspective. He started to really get on the train of it's time for a new head coach. Where do you kind of land on things with Sean and kind of set things up here over the next 4 or 5 weeks with what your expectations are of him and this team down the stretch?
I'm nowhere near fire McDermott. You could convince me at the end of the season to replace both coordinators, depending on how things go. You and I have sat here and talked. I've said it on radio spots that I don't think the worst case scenario, or I don't think it would be a bad thing if the Bills brought in a defensive coordinator that was allowed to run his own defense, bring in his own players or his own scheme. I feel like there are limitations to this McDermott scheme, and we've seen some great adjustments in the second half, but we've also seen 285 yards given up in some of these games and 20 some points given up in the first half. And that's a dangerous game to play against some of these teams, especially when you get to the playoffs. It's going to be hard to get out of holes like that if you continue to struggle in that regard. But, I think that Sean McDermott doesn't get enough credit for his role in turning this franchise around and keeping it as one of the most successful franchises. I know everyone wants the Super Bowl ring, but it takes a long time for some of these coaches to get it done. You look at Andy Reid as an example. All those years in Philly, it never happened. He goes to Kansas City, takes a few years, gets it done there. Sometimes you win one, like Harbaugh in Baltimore, and he hasn't won one since. Tomlin in Pittsburgh. It's tough. There's only one team that wins it all every year, and I know it had been the Chiefs for many, many years here, at least representing the AFC, and that's been Buffalo's boogeyman. But McDermott's had them in it every year, had them as a Super Bowl contender the last few years. I'm nowhere close to getting rid of him. And the one other thing I'll point out, Matt, there is no Ben Johnson in this upcoming coaching carousel or cycle. Liam Cohen and all these other names or a proven coach like Mike Vrabel. I don't think there's anyone like that necessarily. So a team that's looking for a new head coach after this year, you're either going to go with a retread or you're going to roll the dice on someone. You have no idea how that's going to go.
Nate Gear, I want to give him a shout out because he came up with it. He coined the term that's McDermott derangement syndrome. It's like there are people that can't put to bed some of the transgressions, some of the shortcomings over the years. Obviously, 13 seconds looms large for Sean McDermott and will, right? I mean, that's a huge part of his story and how, we're getting into this season and you have Josh Allen in this offense for all of its warts that's still going out there. And the Bills are somehow 4-0 in games that they've scored. They've had 30 or more points scored against them. And so we're now at the end of a season talking about a defense just feels like they're not going to have enough as they get into the playoffs. And I get all that. But in terms of like the chess match, the in-game battle of coaches, it's setting up that the only coach that I think that you're concerned about that potential matchup disadvantage is Sean Payton in Denver because he's won a Super Bowl. He's got a lot of experience in the playoffs, but he doesn't have it with this Denver team. And he doesn't have it with a very young quarterback in Bo Nix, who came to Buffalo last year and looked absolutely lost. And he's coming off a great game against the Packers. We'll see what it looks like in the playoffs. But I think that I don't think that anything is on the line in this playoffs for McDermott in terms of like losing his job. What I do think is on the line with is what the conversation looks like on the other side of things because of the people that aren't going to be in the playoffs. And I think that is a fair conversation to start, but where I think people just reach a level where I can't take the conversation seriously anymore is just when you're bang, 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 bang. I want him gone. I want him gone. I want him gone without actually offering an alternative path. Because if you're talking about the NFL world right now, would you trade Andy Reid for Sean McDermott right now at 68, 69 years old, whatever Andy Reid is? Would you do that, Ryan?
I would have to have some guarantees that he'd be coaching for a few more years.
No, let's just say for next season.
Just a one season,
one off.
You
move out.
Yes? I would. Okay. I think Andy Reid's a genius still.
No, that's fair.
Yes. So that's and anyone that wants to disagree with that, that's fine. But yeah, Andy Reid is like the standard bearer to me. I know that the Chiefs didn't have the greatest season this year, but he's proven time and time again with that roster, with some lesser Philadelphia rosters during his tenure there, that he can get them pretty far in the playoffs. And at least, he got a few Eagles teams or an Eagles team to the Super Bowl. He's obviously got the Chiefs there many times. So in terms of what he's been able to do, yeah, for a 1 year swap, I would certainly do that, but that's just me.
No, I would put him in that category. I think he's earned that with what he's done there. The other person that I think is in that category is Sean McVay, and that's where the tier ends. You're not going to get any of those guys unless you're trading probably 3 first-round picks, and then I think even the Rams still wouldn't do it. Sometimes people talk about Kyle Shanahan. What's the difference between Kyle Shanahan and Sean McDermott? The only real difference is that he's gone to a couple of Super Bowls. The result is the same. He hasn't won any Super Bowls. So I get maybe making that argument, and maybe that's I don't even know if like the Shanahan offense is the right offense that you want to run with a Josh Allen, an alien at quarterback. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. So I guess that's my biggest pushback on the folks that just want something different because they have, it's for whatever reason. And I understand the reason, like the heartbreak of that moment, that 13 seconds moment, being that close to getting over the hump and having an end that way. And, another big issue that I have with this regime, and I brought it up at several times over the course of it, there's not a lot of intel into the operation, right? We didn't really get a lot of the understanding on what happened in the 13 seconds. We still don't know what happened with Stephon Diggs. And I saw a comment in here that I'm much closer to being done with Brandon Beane than I am Sean McDermott. I think this is going to be a very interesting offseason for Brandon Beane and the entire operation for the Buffalo Bills, depending on how this season ends. But I will add one thing. For as much people that are coming for Brandon Beane right now, it's interesting. I don't know if there's a lot of situations where you potentially could have the MVP in Josh Allen, who you drafted, and maybe a top 3 candidate for AFC or for NFL Offensive Player of the Year in James Cook, who you drafted, and have the kind of heat on you that there seems to be on Brandon Beane right now. And I get it. I mean, the wide receiver debacle this offseason, that's something that's going to be fleshed out over the next couple of weeks, couple of months. But I have takes on that, but we'll have to get into that in another show.
It's interesting. I'll say this on Beane. I feel like this is one of his better draft classes, though, in recent years, like compared to recent years. I think that Hairston, when playing, has played very well. Obviously, there was the injury that kept him out. Walker was a gem in round 4, even if he's hit a bit of a rookie wall. Sanders playing out of place right now. I don't know what to really say about that one. Hawes has been outstanding. So they've had some real hits in this draft. He's had some hits in prior drafts, like Cook, like Allen. You look at some of the free agent signings, McGovern a few years ago and David Edwards. And I know those are guys that are going to be up for, contracts are running out, and who knows how they replace them or if they resign one or both. But he's also found some gems. It's very easy to point out the misses because there's been plenty of those as well. But he's also hit on a lot of these players that have helped this team win the AFC East multiple years and be in playoff / Super Bowl contention for all these years.
We'll be right back in 23 hours, everybody. We're headed to Verona, New York, just outside of Syracuse. Turning Stone Resort Casino will be at the New York Rec and Social Club tomorrow, somewhere around 7 o'clock is when things will get kicked off. We'll have a little bit of a meet and greet hour. We'll do the live show at 8 p.m. Hey, if you're feeling a little bit extra froggy, if you're in Central New York or you can make it to the show, we bring fans on the show. So come on out. We'll talk Bills football, anything NFL that you want to get into. We'll preview Bills versus Browns tomorrow. New York Rec and Social Club. We cannot wait. Take care, Ryan.
Yeah, can't wait.